Hello, and welcome to the Homeschool Conversations Africa podcast. Here, we discuss homeschooling from the African perspective and the unique challenges that come with it.
If you're considering homeschooling, we hope to inspire you as you take this bold step. If you're already a homeschooler, we're here to share encouragement for this wonderful journey we're on to educate our children in the best way we can. We are your hosts, Jifa Andam and
Carissa Nete Mabel.
Let's dive right into today's conversation.
Hello, dear friends. Welcome again to another episode of Homeschool Conversations Africa. We hope you have been enjoying the episodes that we've put out so far. We know we've been having fun recording them, right, Carissa?
We have. It's been so amazing getting to meet all these homeschool moms and dads.
Yes, and leave out the dads. So today we have with us a dear friend of both Carissa and me, Andrea Nelson. Andrea and her husband and their two lovely children are missionaries from America who've been in Ghana for a few years. I'm not going to say too much because we have Andrea right here with us and we're going to give her a chance to introduce herself properly to us. So welcome to Homeschool Conversations Africa, Andrea. We're glad to have you here.
Thank you so much. It's really good to be with you two good friends.
Yes.
Talking about something that's near and dear to my heart.
Yeah.
As you said, Scott and I have been in Ghana now for 6 years. And we help to run a orphanage and classical Christian school outside of Accra. And when we moved here, our children were 11 and 9 years old. And now Grace is 17 and Ian is 15.
Wow. Time flies.
And we've been homeschooling since Grace was 4 years old.
Wow. So that's pretty much all her life.
Pretty much all of her life. She actually did go to a traditional preschool. And when we first had Grace, Scott asked me what I thought about homeschooling. And I said, I don't think I want to homeschool. And he said, why not? And I said, well, the kids that I've met who have been homeschooled don't seem very well adjusted to life outside of homeschooling. And that was really I had a very small interaction really with homeschooled kids, but the few that I knew just didn't seem to function as well socially. And so that was a concern of mine, which there have been a few times in my life where I have said that I won't do something. And God has given me an opportunity to rethink that pretty quickly.
I can't say you're the only one.
So that was in my mind, just kind of thinking about that. And as it happens, we were in a church community with quite a few homeschoolers. And so my attitude about homeschool kids was changed through the interactions with those children. And I started to see, there are these lovely teenagers who can talk with adults and young children alike. They have a lot of really fascinating interests. They seem very bright. And so I had to think about it a little bit more.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
So while I had that percolating in my mind, Grace got to be school age. And to be quite honest, I kind of needed a break because I had a baby then at that time. And so we had a lovely Christian preschool down the road from our house. And so we sent Grace off to that, I think 3 days a week. And it gave me a little breathing space. And God was still working on me on this topic. And as we got involved in preschool, it was most of the morning, 3 days a week. And it wasn't just leaving her there. There were all these obligations to assist with the classroom and bring things to the classroom and go along when they did their field trips. And as time went on, I started to think, you know, if I'm going to be this involved in Grace's education anyway, I might as well try. I might as well try it myself. And so I talked to Scott about it, and I said, you know, I think next year I'd like to try homeschooling. And you can imagine the smile on his face because he was pretty sold on homeschooling from the beginning, but he was patient with me. And I thought, well, we could do it when she's 4, and I probably can't mess up too badly.
Yes.
And if it doesn't work out, she can join a kindergarten and we can go on our way.
Yes.
So
That's
we tried.
Always the comfort, right? That was exactly my case. I was like, let's try this for 1 year, and if it doesn't work, hey, school is always there, you know. That's why it's nicer when you try when they're younger, you know.
Yeah.
At least you feel like you have backup.
Yeah. And at that point, they didn't know more than I know.
Yes.
That's true.
So I had
Don't try this in high school.
Yeah.
No, people have done it though. People have done it. Yes. And it's interesting because, your daughter Grace and your son Ian are so very socially well adjusted.
Yes,
Every time I
very,
speak with
very
Grace,
much.
she's such a sweet young lady, and I'm not just saying this because you're
Very
here.
intelligent, yes.
Very intelligent, sweet, well-spoken here. So that myth was busted.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Although it is a myth that you may have to overcome with relatives. We had some part of our family that were enthusiastic about homeschooling, and there were some where they would raise these objections at different times. Well, what about socialization? And I think as the years went by and they saw that Grace and Ian really were not struggling to hold a conversation with anybody, they became more comfortable with the idea.
And this is even with you coming from the US, where homeschooling is pretty common.
Yes.
So
Quite
can you imagine
accepted.
what it is like for the rest of us here? Yes, it can be a bit difficult. I know some friends have spoken with me about that. Like, you know, what do you do? But you do have to do what you're convinced about is best for your children, and just hope. But it kind of puts a bit of pressure on you,
I
right?
think even
It's like everybody's watching you.
You have to kind of prove to people that it's working, so that they can kind of get off your case.
Yes, and that's a shame because you should just be
focusing
focusing on educating your
child's pace.
yes. But that's just the reality of it. So hopefully what we're doing here would help, would help people to know more, would help people to know it's not so weird, It's just another way of educating children. Yes.
I can see where it's difficult in Ghana, though, because there is such a specific path for the vast majority of children. And so it does make sense that people who care about you might raise the objections and ask the questions. And so I think we just need to handle those questions with grace and and try to allay those fears as they come up.
Yes.
Okay, so did you use like a particular curriculum, especially from the younger ages, or like did you follow a particular educational philosophy in the beginning?
Well, it's a little bit eclectic, but I would say it's mostly classical and Charlotte Mason. And the first resource that I pored over when I came to see that this might be in my future is a book called The Well-Trained Mind by, I think, Susan Weisbauer. And I would say that with a preschool student, you need to be careful looking at that book because it can be very intimidating.
Yes,
the plans that she has.
Tell me about
You know,
it.
the funny thing, I mean, you recommended that book to me as well, and I read it. And funny enough, I think that's the book that brought clarity to me, like in homeschooling, because I felt like I was trying to pull from so many different sources, and I didn't have like a clear path. But even though it was a lot, I felt like it gave me something to follow, and it's like a sense of direction, kind of.
That's true. She really does an excellent job of laying out what you could be teaching, when you would be teaching it, the materials you could use, and she and her mother, I believe, have produced a number of wonderful materials that we've used at different times along the way. And so that first year with Grace, when she was in preschool, we used a curriculum called My Father's World from A to Z. And it basically had a letter of the week. So, and then they gave activities that related to the letter and its sound, and they had a different object related to the letter. So, of course, we did apples. So then we made an apple pie together, and we went to an apple orchard. And so it was a real good curriculum for me because everything was kind of laid out together. And it really only took us 45 minutes to an hour and a half to do those lessons. And then we went out and played, which I think is really good in those early years. That one of the advantages of homeschool education is you don't have to have your children in the chair for the same duration of time that their counterparts have in a traditional classroom. So we were fortunate that we had a number of families that we knew who were also homeschooling and had children around the same age. So we would go and play at the park or go on a nature walk or just kind of experience life together during that stage.
So, Andrea, I'm just listening to you describe this wonderful education. I feel like I've dreamt of these things for my kids, but sometimes our environment just doesn't allow it. You know, we may not have parks. Well, in Abuja, at least we have a few parks, but in Accra, we don't have many parks, and you have to battle traffic to get out there and do things. So, can you tell us or share with us maybe some ways that you think these things can be done? You know,
even in your small space.
Yes.
In Accra, as we know it.
Yeah. In an urban setting, it becomes you need to use more creativity to figure out how to develop in the children a love for the natural world. So I think one thing is, as moms, from the very early years, we are just naming things for our kids, right? This is a cup. This is a ball. And so if there's anything in our environment that's natural, we can start by just naming those things. You know, the names of the plants that are around you, the names of the birds that come by. So there's that we can do with our children, and we can even invite friends and have that little exploration with our friends. A lot of the time that we spent with our friends in the early years was in a play group, which gave the children the time to play with other kids regularly, and it was largely for the mothers' sanity to gather together and say, is this normal? Is my child normal? Or what did you do about this? And it also gave us a group where we could plan seasonal outings to go to the pumpkin patch or go and pick apples or different things like that. Of course, in the U.S., we have a big stretch of the year where it's winter, so you can't really go out, and everyone becomes stir crazy being in. But it's still enjoyable to be inside together once a week. So I think play groups are really important, and just kind of asking God to give you the eyes to see different opportunities in your area to explore different things. I mean, here in Accra, we have the ocean side, and
That's true.
we do have beautiful fruit trees around, and we could look at the banana tree and do some study on, what makes a banana grow. And
That's a good
I think
point.
when you start to look out for those opportunities, you might start to see things that you not noticed before.
right.
That's
I
true.
think-
Right. That's
Yeah,
very
I guess you're right. It's just applying some creativity to try and solve that problem.
Mhm.
Yes, I think sometimes we read something in a book and we try to replicate it.
Exactly.
Yes, but we need to tweak these things to fit our own situations or our setting. I was just in Kumasi a couple of weeks ago, and Kumasi is a city in Ghana, and I just noticed so many orange trees at the part of town that we were at. Almost every house had an orange tree, but when you just talked about bananas, I was like, you probably have an orange tree in your backyard and you paid no attention to it. But there's so much that you could teach a child, from that.
That's
So,
a good point.
what I'm hearing Andrea say is just look around you. Don't look too far, and just try to use what you have to the best of your ability.
And we also do have like April gardens, and there's botanical gardens as well. So maybe, like you said, those things can be seasonal.
Yes.
Maybe once a while you can plan a trip, to spend the day there, or something
That's
like
true.
that.
Or the Volta River, or
I guess we also do have
beach.
like tourist sites that you could also take advantage of. Maybe.
That's true. You know how you never do things that are in your backyard? You kind of keep postponing them.
Yeah. I know, even at the orphanage that we work at, I don't think the children have had someone to ask to name things. So I'm always surprised that they don't know the names of the birds where we are, or they don't know the name of the plants.
Yeah. I realized that when I started to look for opportunities to take her outside, I noticed, okay, there's so many different types of birds that come on the electric pole. But I have no idea what their names are. So I had to actually Google to see, okay, what are the birds in Ghana? Like, what species of birds do we have in Ghana? And that could be like a whole other study on its own. So, like you're saying, it's just, I think, developing the eye to see, like, the little opportunities where you are.
Definitely. Yeah.
And Google has this reverse image search or
Yes,
something.
you can
That's
put
been
in-
really, really helpful, because we take walks with the kids sometimes, and my second daughter, Adjo, she likes to pick things. She pick fruits she finds or leaves and things like that. And sometimes we don't know, what. So we just take a picture and then we search, and usually it will come up and tell us what flower this is or something. So that's been really, really helpful.
Oh, that's
Very
great.
helpful to us.
That's great. And Carissa, you brought up a good point where as homeschool moms, we become researchers ourselves.
Yes.
And I like to say that I'm redeeming my own education because I think my education was good, but it didn't have as much curiosity and interest-led aspects to it. So that's been really fun for me.
One reason I also went to homeschool, because I realized there's so much that I didn't learn in school, so much that it's just not part of the curriculum in Ghana.
Yeah.
So I'm so excited to go back and re-explore some of these things, really dig into history, develop a love for nature and the outdoors. So that's a good point.
You might even find yourself enjoying diagramming sentences, which the second time around I have thoroughly enjoyed.
It's actually fun if you think of it too much.
We'll have to wrap up here, but we will continue this conversation in our next episode, so do join us then. Thank you for listening to the Homeschool Conversations Africa podcast.